Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Science with Mr. Dool. The title of this channel is becoming a little bit ironic because it's been a long time since I've done a science video. I promise another science video is coming soon because we're heading back into online learning, but today is not one of those videos. Alright, today I want to be working on this head unit. Now I've been wanting to change the stock head unit in my car for a long time because this one is utter crap, and today I'm finally going to do it. So just a disclaimer, because there are so many tutorials on YouTube on how to do a lot of this already, this isn't going to be a full tutorial. It's just going to be about the details, about the problems that I've gone through changing it in my car and the solutions that I've come up with. Now because this is a premium Subaru WRX, it does come with the premium amplifier and premium speakers, so that has presented me with a lot of problems. Now this to me is as best of a solution as I could get. Nothing on the market is plug and play for this current model with the premium Harman Kardon speaker and amplifier, so this is the best thing that I could come up with. It does cost a lot of money. It did take me almost 2 weeks to finish this, but let's do it. All right, 3, 2, 1. Oh, what? 3, 2, 1. Ah. Here we go. Nice. Alright, so here it is, the Sony XAV-AX5500. Would be a good upgrade for the Rexy. It's got both CarPlay and Android Auto. I don't actually know how to do this because my car's a little bit of a weird car. It's got all this premium stuff because it's a premium car. It's got the premium speakers. It's got the reverse camera, so this is actually not a plug and play. I do have some plug and play stuff, alright, but that's not everything because it does not retain, the factory steering controls or the factory camera. Alright, so I won't have to try and find my way through it, and fingers crossed. Let's see what's in the box. Alright, so in the box, standard stuff. Got a remote, not that I'll ever use the remote. I have the head unit. Ooh, one hand, don't drop. And we've got a whole bunch of wiring stuff. Let's get rid of the box, there's nothing else in there. Right. Cable management, USB, so one for CarPlay and one for music memory. Got a microphone, definitely going to use that. Hard wiring, not sure if I want to use that because I do want to make my own wiring harness with that stuff. And we've got some of these things, coolios. Alright, I've already gotten started. Didn't film it, but I took off the air vents. Now there are two 10mm sockets up the top. There's one on either side here, but it's such a pain to get to. I've already screwed up. Lost my 10mm socket in there. It was the only one I had for that 1/4 inch drive, or 1/2 inch drive, sorry. To go out to buy another one, and this one flexes, goes in, wiggle wiggle. I want to try and claim the other one and get that out. Now this thing I absolutely hate. It's probably one of the worst units ever. No CarPlay, no Android Auto, none of that stuff. It's super slow, sounds not that great, it's laggy, the touchscreen is crap. I mean, I reckon it looks pretty good, sitting nice and flush. It It's pretty good for the interior, but in terms of functionality, it's pretty crap. Alright, so this is the state of my current project. It's been about 8-9 days since I've actually started. I'm so annoyed. I'm not going to show you what's behind there because I haven't organized everything. We're still in the testing phases. So this car being the premium version of the WRX, it's got this weird amplifier stuff, weird speaker stuff that doesn't actually work unless you have the stock head unit. Right, and when I was doing some research into it, I thought I was going to be the hero. You know, I knew that no one was able to work through it with just a plug and play, but I thought I was gonna sort something out, but joke's on me. So my friend's brother, Paul, thanks for coming out, brother, came to help me out. He's an electrician, and what he did was bypass the factory amp, which is back there, which is great. But there's no sub because the sub needs its own amp. So yeah, what I thought was going to be a one-day project is probably going to be 2 weeks. It's already been a week. I'm gonna probably go and buy myself an amp and learn some more things and waste some more money. Yeah, gotta love working on Subarus and the proprietary stuff. Alright, finally got my harness sorted out. Let's see what we've got. It took me a long time to put everything together. Let me break it down for you. Now, the reason why this is so hard is because I have absolutely no skill in auto electrics. I know nothing about wiring. So a lot of research and help from my friend's brother Paul. And this is what we've got. So the head unit puts out this kind of port. Now from the box, the head unit does come with a hard wiring kit, but I bought a few harnesses from Aerpro which are not that expensive. Well, one of them was very expensive, but Aerpro generally pretty affordable, pretty inexpensive. Now from here, the Sony plug, you need a harness from Sony to international standards, right? Because the Sony plug is a proprietary plug. It needs to get plugged, or it needs to go out to a international standards, a universal plug, which is this red and black over here. Right, so after we have the Sony to international standards, we need to find a harness from Subaru to international standards so that they can marry here. This goes into Subaru, that goes into Sony. Now when I was shopping for this, I had quite a bit of issues because there's no harness that contains factory camera, factory steering controls, and the Harman Kardon amplifier. Right? So none of them do that, and this one doesn't do that either. And this one retains, however, the factory camera and the steering wheel controls. So this is the module for the steering controls. Most of the time you don't need it because the head units do have a section or a part in the menu where you can program or set your steering remote to do certain things. However, if I didn't get the harness with this, it wouldn't have come with the pin or the harness, this plug, to plug into the steering wheel control. Alright, so this made it a lot more expensive. Subaru to international standards actually isn't for the WRX. It's made for the Lavorg, the Outback, the XV, which is pretty much exactly the same as my car. So what do we have? So this here, speakers and power. This here, 28 pin, that goes into reverse trigger, steering controls, and something else I forget. This one here is the actual reverse camera, and this here is the module that goes into the back of the head unit. RCA cable for remote, and it retains this. So this Aerpro harness also retains factory auxiliary input, which I will not be using, but it's there anyway. Alright, this here is the step down, the voltage step down, because the factory camera uses 6 volts and the battery puts out 12. Because the factory, or because the harness does not trigger 2016, 2017 onwards Harman Kardon, and none of them will trigger the stock premium amplifier because it's got some weird voltage stuff. We have to bypass it. So there are a total of 9 speakers in the Subaru WRX, right? But the unit only powers 4 speakers. So these leads here bypass the amplifier directly to the head unit. So the head unit is going to be powering, in my circumstance, 4 of the speakers. And over here you're going to see 2 pairs of RCA cables. This is going to go to the preamp outputs at back of my head unit. So these 2 I want to use for the sub. The sub is only 1 RCA input signal though, so I have that there to turn that into 1 signal, split it out into 2, and it goes into this amp that I had to buy. Right, so there's no way of getting everything working without buying an amp. The sub will not work unless you have an aftermarket amp. And this one here I bought is some Pioneer. I'll put it down in the description. So these 2, so this one's going to power the front, and these 2 are going to power the sub. This orange one here, that is the trigger to turn on the amp every time I turn on my car. So let's do it. Alright, so I'm almost finished. I know it doesn't look like it's finished, and I've been working on this for so many days, 1.5 weeks, almost 2 weeks now. I know that it doesn't look like it's almost finished, but I promise all I have to do is plug that in. Excuse my finger, I cut myself, I didn't have any more band-aids. All I have to do is plug in the head unit in there, join all the cables, and it will work. Also, excuse my beard, it's been a very stressful 1.5 weeks trying to get everything to fall into place. Now, the harness, which I've shown in an earlier clip, okay, does look very daunting, but I've managed to tie everything together so that it's just this neat T cable. Now, it does look very daunting, which is why I have drawn this diagram. To all my students, especially the ones in year 9 and year 8 who tell me that science is useless, well, electric circuits, scientific diagrams, we use this to simplify what's going on, especially in something like that. This is so much easier to look at. Here's my car. So the car having harnesses coming out of it, which provide power to speakers, power to head unit. That's all these white plugs at the back going into the car. Basically where you see the foam padding, that's the Subaru. So because Subaru have their own specific Subaru plugs, we need to have a cable to convert it or change it to international standards. That's if you don't want to hardwire it. Okay, so again, all of the harnesses and stuff that I've used will be in the description box down below. So to international standards, that's a plug. Now, Sony also have their own thing, but they come with a hardwiring kit. What you really want to do is buy the Sony to international standards harness. I know you have to buy another harness, it's pretty cheap. For this one here, probably less than 20 bucks, right? Really good stuff. Now this part here, the first one that I bought was 20-30 bucks as well, Subaru to international standards, but that was so crap because that only turned on the head unit. That didn't retain these stock steering controls. It didn't retain my reverse camera, which is non-existent at the moment. I searched far and wide to see if there was a plug and play harness. I almost gave up until I went to a store, and this guy was really good. He was telling me that there actually is a harness that fits this specific car, retaining both the steering controls and the reverse camera, but it was for the XV, the Outback, the Lavore, right, which is all pretty much the same as this. They use the same Subaru plugs. So there we go, it fit my car as well. The only problem was it was bloody expensive. Now that harness set me back 170 bucks. 170 bucks for a harness, honestly, but it saved me so much time. right? The amount of money I spent on the harnesses, all the cables and all that stuff, that costed more than the head unit itself. Right, the head unit mounted for probably 40% of the total cost of this project, right? Now, so from the Sony head unit, I ran some RCA cables that went to the aftermarket amplifier. Now, because this is a premium Rexy, it comes with the Harman Kardon speaker system and amplifier. Honestly, it's not that bad, but when you don't use the stock head unit, you can't use the speakers at all. So you either have to bypass it, which I did, and you also have to use an amplifier if you want the sub. So the first thing I did, well, I didn't do it, I got my friend's brother to help me out, Paul. So Paul came along and he did the bypass for me. So basically what he did was he ran a cable, so he spliced into the harnesses that I bought. Right, and this is why you want to buy harnesses, because if you want to hardwire or something, you just splice into the harnesses that you bought, not into the actual Subaru one. Now, what the bypass means is that it bypasses or completely goes around or away from an amplifier. So this head unit is directly powering some of my speakers, right? And now I was really happy when we first wired it up because I thought everything worked. But then the sub didn't work, right? Because there's not enough power coming from the head unit to power the sub, which is why I ended up having to buy an aftermarket amp, and that made this project so much harder and so much more expensive. I was not expecting that at all, right? So the amp uses power from the 12-volt battery, the battery at the front of the car, so I had to run a wire all the way to the back where the amp is, because that's the location of the stock amp as well. I just wanted to keep everything there looking clean. And from the amp, there's just a ground wire and earth going to the chassis of the car. All right, so promise, it is almost finished. Now, another issue that I ran into, I plugged everything in and there is Android Auto on that unit. So I tried to get Android Auto working, which it does. I bought an adapter to retain the stock USB ports down there, so I don't have to run any external thing or like drill any holes in my car or in the dash, because I just hate drilling plastics. So I got the retaining adapter to connect the stock USB ports to the head unit. So I didn't realize this until I tried to get it working. Because this has 2 USB ports, it doesn't actually work with Android Auto because it only works with 1 port, which honestly sucks. So what I did was went on Amazon and bought one of these. Now hopefully this fits into the 12-volt socket. Alright, so I'm gonna take this out, remove the cigarette lighter, because 1, I don't smoke, and 2, I'd never use that, and 3, if I ever do want to use a 12-volt socket, there's another one right in there. So I want to take that out, plug this into the harness, just that little blue stick over there at the back of the head unit, and hopefully it all works. This here is the aftermarket amplifier that I bought. Right, so power, ground, speakers. So the power wire runs across there, ran it on the left side of the car all the way to the front where the battery is, and the speakers I ran over on this side going to the head unit, which is in there. I'm so keen, it's almost finished. So I'm just going to drill this in, tidy it up, plug everything in, and Bob's your uncle. I'll be done with this project now. Thanks, guys. Alright, so it's finally finished. could not be happier with the way it looks. It is so clean. I reckon it looks so good. So it's a very simple unit. It's only got a few buttons. Everything else is controlled by the steering wheel here. It looks like it came out of the factory like this, and I wish it did. About the Android Auto problem, I'm so glad that that USB that I bought fits just like a glove into the cigarette lighter. It's so cool. Let's turn on the power, see what it looks like. It's a really simple setup, very simple layout. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting ripped off a little bit because it's a little bit too simple, but honestly it's everything that I need. So here is where you set your controls, your steering wheel controls. You program it to whatever you want these ones to do. So nice. Pop it in reverse, camera comes up. It does come with some guidelines, but the factory one is still there, so I just use that one. It's so clean. Alright, and the real king of this unit is Android Auto. I'm using my phone to film, so I can't plug it in. Can't plug that in, but it's so cool.
Well, he loves performing this song. It's one of his favourites.
You know. Oh, I know what it's going to be. I hope it's that one.
How do I know? I've been trying to interview him.
Don't want to play any music so that I don't get a copyright claim. But this sounds so much better. I'm on the stock speakers, the factory speakers. All I've done is put in an amp and put in a head unit, but the clarity in the speakers, the clarity in the music, in the voices, in the bass, everything just sounds so much better. Worth the money. Well, most of it anyway. It's still expensive. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoy. See you in the next one. Bye.